See them pop up on the sides.
Yep. And you don't have to wait for anyone to join. Just go ahead and whenever this gets settled, we can start.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. We're at Galleon Community Theater. I'm going to wait a little bit to get things rolling until we start seeing some people come through. When you hop on, feel free to say hi so we know you're there. And feel free to use our chat to ask any questions that you have of our guests.
Already good.
Ooh, people are logging on. Okay, so this is our very first opening night live at GCT as part of our Fill the Seats fundraising campaign, and we're excited to be here with you. I'll start the evening by kind of talking a little bit about why we are here and why we are hosting this fundraising campaign right now. So typically, the theater season consists of 3 shows. And this summer, we were hoping to, hi, Mark. This summer, we were hoping to be able to host The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Unfortunately, that's not possible. We're also hoping to continue our season, but right now, because we rely predominantly on the funds we raise through putting them on those productions, we are needing to look for alternate sources to raise funds to get us through to the summer of 2021, when we're hoping to perform full-fledged musicals once more. So feel free to participate this evening by, like I said, chatting. And I do see several people here. Hi, Carol and Amy and Diane and Paul. And it looks like several other people are on. But if you are interested in donating, you can go to galliontheater.org/donate. And it's very easy to go from there, just a couple buttons for you to click. But I will go ahead and start introducing our guests. Okay, so Friday opening night live. Our very first one, we have Kate Butterfield and Jim Hoover, who were instrumental in the founding of Galleon Community Theater in 1984. Kate Butterfield graduated from Heidelberg College in 1980 with a bachelor's degree in music education and began teaching at Galleon High School, where she worked with the marching band and show choirs and the school choirs. In 1984, Kim Spencer and Todd Price approached her and Denver Wilson about bringing a community theater to Galleon, and they chose Sound of Music. After that, she also helped with the following production of Brigadoon. And then when she began a family, she did pass along the theater to some more people passionate about music and theater here in the community. She now resides in New Hampshire, where she still teaches music at Keene Middle School. And then we also have Jim Hoover with us. Jim Hoover was approached in 1984 at his law office to audition for The Sound of Music. And of course, that was organized under Denver and Kate Butterfield. He was cast as Captain Von Trapp, the leading man. He was also requested to incorporate the theater in 1984. And in August, that was completed. He has been the president, the treasurer, the secretary on the Galleon Community Theater Board. And he now lives in Bay Village, Ohio, to live closer to family. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them onto the screen here so we can hear a little bit from them. One moment while I bring them in. And here they come. Hello.
Good evening, Beth.
Hello.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Beth.
How are you two doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Doing great.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It looks like we've got about 40 people on with us already.
Woo!
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll talk about what it was like being part of Galleon Community Theater and its founding. Oh, and Kristen Butterfield Farrell says hi.
Oh, I guess she decided to jump on.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Okay, so Kitty, I'll start by asking you a quick question. What made you decide to go into music education?
When I was in elementary school, I had a wonderful music teacher, and I had been studying piano and flute, piano since I was 5. And I decided actually when I was 10 years old in 5th grade that I wanted to be a music teacher. So I just continued doing as much as I could with music and actually never looked back, even all the way through college and in my however many year career that I've had now over probably about 40 years of teaching music. So started in 5th grade.
Perfect. Yeah. And you
inspired by a music teacher, actually. So.
And I'm sure you've inspired many more. Okay. And then I know you were approached by a couple of students. Is that what inspired you to begin planning and producing a summer theater program here in Galion?
Yes. We were doing Annie, Get Your Gun. And Kim Spencer played Annie. She was a senior. And Todd Price, a sophomore. They were good friends. And they were just so passionate about theater. And they thought, gosh, I don't want to graduate and not have something like this to continue. So they came to Denver, me, and said, what do you think about pulling this in to a community organization? And we both said, wow, that sounds really neat. And they had this tremendous amount of energy and spirit that kept us going and inspired us to say, let's do a show. So at first we just kind of coordinated it, all the coordination with the Galion, I guess, music and theater department. And then I'll let Jim talk a little bit more about when he remembers we inspired or got more people together to, produce it and then think about incorporating.
Yeah, I know we heard a little.
Yes, it got started by the inspiration of 2 students.
We heard a little bit from Todd Price yesterday on our Facebook page, and I'm just blown away that what GCT has become came from 2 high schoolers. And we love doing high school and youth-oriented productions still. So it just goes to show that an idea can turn into something really great. Okay, and then as we've mentioned several times now, in 1984, Sound of Music is what Galion Community Theater debuted with. So what made you decide on that production?
I believe it was because it's such a good community show. We could have young children as well as any age. I don't know what the oldest nun that we had, but it really brought in the community. We could have people put in lots and lots of time, or we had some of our people that came to the dance party that maybe only had to rehearse a little bit. So it really brought in people from all over Galion, all ages. And I also believe that Denver Wilson, the director, my very, very good friend, I think it was one of his favorite shows. And I think he thought it would be a perfect show to start the community theater with.
Definitely, yeah. The music from Sound of Music is just beautiful. We'll hear a little bit of that later this evening. It's definitely something that everyone can enjoy. So how else have you been involved with music and theater here in Galion, Ohio?
When I was there?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, I was the high school choral director, so I did all the choirs, worked with the marching band and helped the band director. And the show tune group, which is still continuing, had started about a year before I got hired. So it was very, very early in its time. And I was just so fortunate to have a wonderful group of kids that I got to work with. And in the 11 years I was there, it really grew to be something very well respected. And we performed for, dinner parties and Christmas parties and all over. So that was a group that I just really loved. I did do the bell choir and the played in the bell choir and sang the church choir at the UCC church and also at the Presbyterian church. And just kind of involved in a lot of things in Galion until 1991 when I moved away.
Show tunes is, I think, still an experience that affects a lot of people. I know I loved my time in that group. So it was a great time. Okay, and what are you doing now that you're not in Galion anymore, but still in the music world?
Yes, so we moved to New Hampshire in 1994, and I began teaching at a middle and high school. And then for the past 20 years, I've been at a middle school, Keene Middle School, very, very wonderful wonderful music program. We have a beautiful school with a beautiful auditorium. We were just talking about that before. So I did the choirs. I did a show choir here. And I also am the musical director of a community teen, children and teens place called Moco Arts. And we do 2 musicals every year. Unfortunately, just like a lot of places, our show Rent that we've been rehearsing has to be canceled. Very, very sad about that. But I've been involved with Moco for quite a few years now. And I directed the church choir and little kids choir until about 2014, I guess, when I went back to get my master's degree. So I'm still teaching. Our 3 daughters are grown, and we have a granddaughter, and we live on 14 acres and have a big garden. And my husband is retiring this year, and I'm going to go a few more years, and then we'll see what happens.
Sounds like a plan.
So thank you.
Okay. I'm going to jump in here a little bit
and
say back to Kate's comment about how she was inspired by a music teacher. I know that she has inspired so many others to go on and to be a music teacher as well, with the same type of enthusiasm she generated.
Thank you.
Definitely. I know my mom loves music a whole lot, and I know a lot of that is attributed to you. So, okay.
She was a very special student, that's for sure.
So one more thing that I just thought of, I heard another kind of cool thing about Sound of Music and about your show tune group. I heard that a past Rockette was actually involved with both of those things. Is that true?
I'm not sure who is that.
Diana Wade.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Found it in all of my digging.
Yes, she choreographed for the show choir, show tune group. And yes, you are right. 34 years, 36 years. It's been a long time.
No, she was a non-dancing nun in the show. So.
A Rockette nun. That's an interesting combo. It was one of the things I was most excited to find in my research. Okay, Jim, now you're in the hot seat. So, Jim, how were you involved in the founding of the theater?
Well, as Kate indicated, that after the production of Annie Gets Her Gun, there was a group that was formed to try to generate an organization for a summer musical. And I'm not certain as to when I got involved. I just know that that group started to meet in our lofts at some time during the course of prior to the production of Sound of Music. I know I was not involved in the decision-making process of what musical would be involved, but they came in to start to try to get the organization put together, production, advertising, and things like that. And then they came back with a legal request to help them get incorporated as a nonprofit corporation under Ohio laws and get an exemption under the Internal Revenue laws, so that people that made donations to them, of course, could get a tax deduction as well to encourage those things. So that was my initial involvement, was to really provide a place for the organizational group. There were a lot of people. As Kate said, it was amazing the number of people that were able to become initially involved, that were not only students, but people from the community that wanted to see something like this happen. Definitely. And then I got a call, audition call in the newspaper, and someone suggested I go and try out, and I was scared to death. And I remember going into the high school auditorium, and Kate and Denver were out in the auditorium with a table, I think, up over the chairs in the auditorium, and it was frightful long distance to them, and you could hardly see them. And I was afraid, but it was interesting. That was when I got involved in the show itself.
Yeah, auditions are still scary. I'm terrified of auditions. I know this wasn't part of the questions, but was this one of the first shows that you've ever been a part of, Jim, or had you had previous experience with other productions?
And I had 2 prior production experiences in high school. One was a part in The Importance of Being Earnest, where I was a butler, and my only line was a glass of Sherry Lane. I think that was it. And then I was in a musical, an operetta that Herb Krischbaum directed my senior year, called The Gondoliers. But that was it. And I did have the drama course from Miss Sarah, but I didn't participate in any of the productions other than that bit role that I had in that Importance of Being Earnest.
And you just jumped right into the starring role.
know.
Okay.
One thing that Denver and Kate taught me is there's no star. Everybody on that stage is a star.
That is very true. A production would not exist without the leads, the chorus, the directors, the backstage hands, the front of house. It's amazing what all goes into the productions here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I guess it was kind of part of one of the questions I had prepared for you. So how many productions, if you have a number, have you been a part of over the years, and do you have a favorite out of all of those?
Ooh. In the Galleon Community Theater, I think there were over 15 or 16 productions I performed in. And then there were 7 non-Galleon Community Theater shows that I participated in, either in the Bucyrus Little Theater, the Mansfield Playhouse, or the Renaissance Theater. And then I directed 4 shows for Galleon. My favorite is Hard. So many of them had so many good things. I'd say the favorite role I think I had was probably, and the most difficult for energy and fun, was Harold Hill and the Music Man.
Oh, yeah.
But the Sound of Music, I actually got to reprise the role of the captain after the Galleon production in Bucyrus, and then also Mansfield, their theater.
So you had it down pat by that third go around, right? Couldn't miss a line by then.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay,
and you can, and as Kate and Denver taught me, you don't let the audience know that you've missed a line.
Right. That's always tough. So, Jim, what are you up to now?
Well, when I left Galleon, I had retired from my last full-time job as a municipal court judge, and I then sat by assignment for 6 years in municipal courts throughout the west side of the state of Ohio. And then I stopped doing that about a year ago. So now I'm a full-time husband and grandfather, and like to read a lot. And currently, what am I doing is I'm doing what everybody else is doing. I'm locked out. Miss being able to see our family. Mm-hmm. Really miss being able to see our family.
I have seen some Zoom get-together workouts, though, from you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Keep them busy. Okay, and I've got a couple more questions. And just a reminder to our audience here, feel free, if you think of a question that you have for either of these lovely folks, feel free to type it in, and I'll try not to miss them on the side here. Okay, but next question for both of you. How were you able to raise the funds to get this project going and for the first production?
Kate, go ahead.
What I want to say is that I really have no idea, because I wasn't involved in that. And what I think, did very well strategically was to get the right people in the right places. And I know that Peg Cagle was very active as a producer. There were some other people who just knew how to go out into the community and just stir it up. I think having the musicals in Galleon, we started, actually the first musical that Galleon ever had was in 1981 when Julie Barnett at the time, I don't think she was Hoffman yet, and I started, here I was right out of college, she was 2 years out of college, and they said, hey, let's start a Broadway musical. And the community just really rallied around those shows. So we did Oklahoma, we did Music Man, West Side Story, and then I think, anyway, Annie Get Your Gun got, and that's when the community theater started. So I think the excitement for that kind of show and the support for it was already in the community, but we had the right people in the right places to go out and support getting the money, because that was not something I did.
You're right, Kate. Peg Cagle was very instrumental in the production end of it, getting that stuff going. And I know students were involved in car washes. There were raffles. All types of things were used to generate money to get it started.
Yep.
Awesome.
And then the production itself was very successful. And it sold out, I think, or not sold out, but maybe it did sell out.
Oh,
Do you remember, Kate?
I think I saw in one of the newspaper articles that there was like a waiting list of like 200 people or something.
I know that there were close to 1,200 tickets sold for the 2 shows. and it was in the big old high school auditorium, which was extremely hot at the time. The backstage temperature was over 100 degrees. I can remember that. They were literally peeling costumes off of me.
And then those poor nuns in those habits. Oh my gosh, so hot.
But there was a lot of effort on the part of a lot of people that made it get going financially. Just like there's been a lot of people over the years who have worked very hard to make the theater go on.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of the things that surprises me, quite frankly, because I remember when Kate and Denver brought Kim and Todd into my office to get serious about trying to get an organization group and incorporate. And I looked at them and I said, do you think this will really last? I did. I mean, I didn't think it would last as long as it would, because Galleon at that time was struggling financially, as it has for a long time. But again, through the efforts of a lot of people, it's made it. And we hope that now, efforts of this campaign and people like yourself, Beth, and others situated, that it will.
Good commercial. Keep it going.
Right. I've got a couple questions here from our audience. Lamar Wise wants to know, did you have a pit orchestra for that very first production?
Yes, and I'm actually glad you asked that, because a question coming up is a little bit of favorite memories. And I guess for me, being, quite young, soon out of college, it was one of the first, I guess it was the first orchestra that I actually directed, because the high school shows, we had somebody else direct the orchestra and I played the piano for them. So I actually got the instrumentalists and rehearsed them and conducted from the pit. Something really neat about that show too was that two of the songs we wanted were not in the stage production, but they were in the movie. I Have Confidence and Something Good. We didn't like the love song that the Captain and Maria had to sing in the Broadway show. So I wrote to the, that was back before email. I wrote to the movie in just, in California, and said, can we use these two songs from the movie? And they gave me permission. And so then I had to orchestrate them. So I look back at that and say, wow, that was pretty neat that we got to do those songs. So yes, there was a live orchestra and they were awesome.
I had no idea those two songs weren't in it. Those are two of my favorites from the production.
I know, which is why I said we have to have it.
Right, yeah.
Well, and if you've been involved in productions or you've heard of production, you can know how much the music impacts the emotion of the show. And I can recall one of my memories of the sound of music is when we rehearsed the scene where the captain first gets involved with kind of being warm with the children for the first time. And there's a place where he has to cross the stage and lean down and hug Gretel in blocking that Kate and Denver had made. And all through the rehearsals, the orchestra did not include the professional viola player, Jeff Fisher, I think was his name. Is that right? And was a violin player, Basinger, Mrs. Basinger, guitarist. They were not there because they were paid and they weren't brought in until the very last few rehearsals. And I remember in that scene where the captain had to cross, all of a sudden this emotional viola part started to play, and I literally started to cry in the practice session. So emotional. But it was a full orchestra. And also the theater, the auditorium had a pipe organ, a really nice pipe organ that was used in the wedding scene. It was really good.
Yeah.
We love still being able to use the live pit for most of our shows. So I know being an actor on stage, I think it helps you portray a character a little bit more. Another question from the audience, Mark Schock. This is for Kate. Did you expect GCT to still be around today?
Interesting that you should ask that. Kind of like when Jim just commented on that, I don't think that I had a vision beyond that we were getting it started. And so I wasn't thinking to myself, wow, will this still be around in so many years? But the 11 years that I lived in Galleon, it kept doing really well. And then when I moved and kept up with the different people that came to take it, to work on it, and even some of the same people who have been like Tim Groth, who's been there from the beginning almost as well. So it's pretty neat to see the threads of people and families that have continued. So I wouldn't say I'm hugely surprised. I think Galleon does love their theater and supports it, and it's just a community that works well together. So I guess I didn't back then say, oh, will it be lasting? And I'm not totally surprised. I'm actually very happy.
Definitely. And then we've got a couple hellos. Jenny Eachus and her father, Richard Kent, say hi.
Oh, good. Hello.
And then I know Gretel, who was mentioned a little bit earlier, she said hello a little earlier as well. So she's on here.
Great.
Okay. Another question. What kinds of challenges, I know you touched a little bit on it, but what kinds of challenges did you face when getting GCT up and running?
I think I would address beyond the sound of music, perhaps, and the organizational aspects of it, was we had no venue other than the high school auditorium, which was not ideal. I mean, it was a nice place, but again, it was extremely hot. And then when it eventually got condemned and closed off, that we couldn't use it, that was only a few years after we started. We were a vagabond little troupe that would go into church basements and tape off for a stage, would be and have rehearsal, and then stage the show at maybe the local Elks Club or some other facility. And that was the biggest challenge. Where to store things, I know my law partners were kind enough to let the theater store their props and their costuming and things in the basement of our law office. So there was a constant moving of different things to different locations, which was a problem at first.
Yeah. Okay. We've actually kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you have anything to add to this question, when it all started, I know you already talked a lot about it. Did you imagine it would go on to last this long? But more importantly, did you think it would touch as many people's lives and affect as many people as it has?
Well, I would say that from my experience from the very beginning with the Sound of Music, which was just like one huge family, there was so much love and friendship within that cast that it's hard to describe. And then that continues on with other shows. That show in particular, I don't know what it was. There was just an amazing binding of the cast. And I think maybe I do know. It's because of Kate and Denver and how they handled the direction and the rehearsals. But I think that continues now. I mean, people really develop relationships through theater. It gives people a huge opportunity that maybe have never done anything else in their life to become involved in something on or off the stage. And I think that's what will continue, hopefully, theater going on, is all those people who have been touched will hopefully now get behind your campaigns for it. Yeah. And continue to do so.
Yeah, I think there's just something so special about music, and then probably the theater aspect and people being together. And it's not a competitive situation. It's a supportive and loving way to be with each other and bring out the best. And I think when people can express themselves in a creative way, it taps into emotions that maybe they can't in other areas of their life. So I think theater will always impact people this way. And I'm just glad it's still there and going.
So are we. And then one of you mentioned one of your favorite memories already, but do you have any other favorite memories you'd like to share about your time during Sound of Music or just at the theater in general?
I think, I know I mentioned the orchestra. I think practicing with the 7 children was really, really special. We had our big rehearsals with everybody in the evenings, and sometimes it would be just the nuns chorus, and sometimes it would be the leads, and sometimes it would be everyone. But I would have extra rehearsals at like 10 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon with the 7 children. They had a lot to learn to sing, and it was really, really neat to spend that extra time with them. So I think that's a really strong memory for me.
One of the memories I have of the production is how, and I didn't know if this was planned by Denver, but he took photos from the beginning of the rehearsals till we had our final dress rehearsals, and then showed us those pictures with the idea of teaching us how every little aspect of the theater helps make that big illusion that you want to create to bring everybody to focus on what's happening. You know, from things like adding costuming and adding lighting and then adding the music. And that was an unusual approach because in high school drama, I know we talked about that thing, those concepts, but I never actually saw it. And that was really a great memory. The other memory I have is I wish you all could have heard the nuns chorus. I mean, the kids were wonderful too, but the nuns chorus was much better than the one in the movie. And
yes, and they were amazing.
They actually toured after the show closed. They had people calling them to do concerts at different locations, and they were really good. I mean, they had a wonderful sound. And
we were very lucky with, yeah.
But Kate, you know, I said this the other day when we were talking to Beth and Rowan, you're the best at bringing out the best and the worst. And you did a wonderful job in developing that whole show, the nuns chorus especially.
Well, thank you. Well, and you were commenting on Denver, and of course I have to say also he's just such an amazing person. I learned so much. I was so young, and he was an experienced director, but just his, you know, you don't come to rehearsal late. I mean, you're there on time and you give your best, and every single thing that is supposed to be real about the show, you don't wear a ring if it didn't belong. You don't wear, the hair has to be the way it was. I mean, he just really impressed upon me the details that you can put in to make it just be absolutely fantastic. So you got to learn from the best, that's for sure.
It's funny that
and
you
then
mentioned
the family, the kids and the cast were just amazing. They were so talented and gifted, and especially the two Thornton gals. I mean, I don't want to single anybody out because they were all good, but the two Thornton gals from Osiris, I forget, how old was Gretel, Kate? You remember?
I think they were like 6 and 9 or something.
And
they got some family members who might tune in.
Yeah, they were accomplished pianists.
Right.
And after rehearsal, they might sit down and just do a little concert for us. And it was really a delight to listen to them play.
Kate, it's funny that you mentioned Denver talking about being on time for rehearsals. I don't know if you saw in one of the artifacts we put up on the Facebook, but there are like rehearsal notes. And on the side, you see in all caps, be 15 minutes early, on time is late, or something along the lines like that. It was very clear on his page.
Another thing that Denver liked to do that I never had done to me in any of the plays I've ever been in is he'd go back and take props off the prop table from time to time to see how you would handle that your prop wasn't there.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
That's great. I know I've missed a prop before, and that's like your heart just drops when you have to be on stage in like 5 seconds. You're like, what do I do?
Well, and then he also emphasized, you don't mess with the prop table, and that's exactly why.
Yeah, and then he did it. Well, it's funny you should say that about being on time. We really were a stickler about that with the high school shows because we could be. But then when it came to the community theater, we had to be a little relaxed because we had these people that would stroll in after they had their evening wine. And we had a few of the nuns chorus that were 10, 15 minutes late often. But we just said, we're so happy you're here. We realized you couldn't get mad at the adults. We could be strong with the kids, but not with the adults. So.
Yeah, a couple notes from our audience. Marty Cecil says, hello, Captain, from your maid, Frau Schmidt.
Oh,
yes.
And love to you too, Kitty.
I can give her my line. I was... Go ahead. Hi, Marty.
Sam Starr wants to know if you have a favorite song from The Sound of Music. If you can narrow it down.
To me?
Let's say both of you. Yeah.
Oh, I would say Nancy's song, Climb Every Mountain.
And that's mine as well. And it's the one that I chose to play.
Yeah. We'll hear some Climb Every Mountain tomorrow. So be looking for that. Okay. And then I've just got one last question, unless an audience member chimes in here. This is kind of like a fun one, not really related to the theater or anything. But do you have a favorite production right now? Or what's a show that you'd be excited to see on our stage?
Kate?
Well, a couple of my favorite shows right now I don't think are out for the community theater to be able to do, which would be Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen. Mm-hmm. But Favorite shows that I have been involved with, Footloose I really enjoyed doing, Rent, and once again, that's a serious adult subject matter, or upper teen, high school, college. I really, really loved Les Mis. I don't know, have you guys done Les Mis yet?
We did. Was 2013, 2012,
okay,
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Excellent production.
Yeah, that was a joint production with Crawford Theater Company. So Crawford Theater Company and Gallen Community Theater.
Yeah, those are shows that I really enjoy and appreciate. Of course, Sound of Music, and I love Godspell. I loved Brigadoon. I keep wanting somebody up here to do Brigadoon because I haven't done it since the since I was in Galleon. So
I like Hamilton, and I'm not a person who's normally fond of rap. I like Come From Away.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
And Something Rotten, which my daughter tells me Something Rotten was in line for all the big awards, and then they got some, but Hamilton came out midstream and then captured most of the awards. But Something Rotten is very funny, and those of you who know me, I like funny things. Something Rotten, and something I'd like to see Galleon try. And also Come From Away, I think would be a nice show for Galleon, especially because it doesn't require a lot in the way of setting.
Yeah.
You can use one particular set, one stage setting. Something Rotten would have a pretty big costume budget, but it's a funny show.
I just saw Come From Away in New York about a year ago with Jenny Eachus. And it was amazing. The music and the choreography. I always have to talk about the choreography. It's just so impressive, and how the characters switch so effortlessly in and out of playing like 3 or 4 different roles. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the audience here before we transition to our little bit of a closing? Just a reminder to everyone watching, I'll put another little plug here. This has been part of our Fill the Seats fundraising campaign. So if you are able to, and if you would like to donate to our Fill the Seats fundraiser, please visit galliontheater.org/donate. And Amy Keller, or Thornton, is that what the last name was 7.
Yeah.
And then the older daughter was 11.
okay.
I have a cheat sheet coming through.
I said 6 and 9, but I was wrong.
That was pretty close. So I guess we will transition to our closer. Jim is going to sing us some Edelweiss as a nice little lullaby to close the evening. So I'm going to switch the camera here. And Jim, are you ready?
I just have to turn on the music.
Okay. And I'll pin you on the screen.
Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, green and white, you look happy to meet me, blossom of snow may you bloom and grow, bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a round of applause.
Hey, thank you for providing the piano music as well.
Yes, accompanied by Kate Butterfield.
all the way from New Hampshire.
Yes.
Yes. You sound amazing, Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes, you do.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
You know, there was a time period where somebody was talking to Denver and me about coming back and doing a show at the theater. And of course, we did not do that, unfortunately. And then Denver passed away. But you need to come back and do something at some point with all of you.
We're happy to have you back anytime. Just let us know. All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if I get any more questions, I'll send them over to you and see what we have. But thank you everyone for joining us tonight and watching our Q&A and that wonderful performance from Jim. And thank you to everyone who has donated to this campaign so far. We really appreciate it. You're helping us stay here in the community and have an impact on even more people and bring music and theater to Galleon. So thank you so much and have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Rowan.
Take care.